welcome to another episode of Turn Left. I am your host, Indiana's own Dana Black, coming to you live. Yes, all the way live from Black World Studios, where we talk about Indiana politics from the left side of things. Well, it was quiet at the State House this week because, well, they ended early last Friday. And I guess they wanted to get out of there. I mean, I would too if I was doing some of the things that they were doing. I wouldn't want to stick around Indianapolis, you know, the town that they consistently, all the time, just want to regulate from the State House. I'd want to get out of Indianapolis too. But you know what? There are some significant bills that have been passed, and they're heading to the governor's desk. But as you know, every year they think they can reinvent on how to educate kids. Education gets an overhaul every year because everybody's got a new way to build a better mousetrap, right? So there's 8 bills that I wanted to focus in on that came through that passed both House and Senate and are heading to the governor's desk for signature. This is a great article. WBOI reports 8 bills, education bills, that are heading towards the governor's desk. Senate Bill 1, authored by Senator Linda Rogers, enforces holding back third graders who fail iRead 3, the state's reading assessment, despite intervention efforts and support. It also requires school districts to have all second graders sit for the test starting next school year, while offering summer school courses to students who are struggling to read or at risk of failing the iRead exam. There are some retention exemptions for English language learners, students with disabilities, and students who are previously retained. Senate Bill 6, widely considered a partner bill of sorts to the state's third grade retention bill, now awaits Holcomb's signature. The bill, co-authored by Rogers and Senator Jeff Ratz, tasks Indiana's Department of Education with developing methods to identify students in grades 4 through 8 who did not pass iRead 3 and who are not reading proficiently. The department will also be required to develop guidance for schools to support students who are on the cusp of not being proficient readers. So they're going to hold your kid back, and they're going to offer summer school classes. The biggest thing in this one is did we budget for the extra summer school? No, because it's not a budget year. So I don't know. I mean, I obviously want our young people to be reading at a proficient level, but I think one of the reasons why students aren't reading at a proficient level is because what are they reading? Did you take all the fun out of reading? Nobody can read anything about themselves if they're not white cisgender males. That's one of the reasons. Also, they're trying to, tell teachers that if they say anything about anything, they could be brought up on charges. There are a lot of reasons why our students are not reading at proficiency levels, but we don't want to look at those. We just want to hold them back. Mothers and parents, I would be following up with this one because they're going to have second graders sit for it this year, which you've not prepared for. And then if they pass it this year, then they don't have to sit for it in the third grade. But it kind of sets up a little bit of pressure on you when you weren't prepared for it. So I wish you the best of luck. That's why I didn't have no kids. House Bill 1001, authored by Chuck Goodrich, was another priority bill this session that expanded work-based learning legislation from the 2023 session. It allows students to use money from the state-funded Career Scholarship Account program for training to obtain their driver's license or cover certain transportation costs. Now, that's not so bad. We're giving kids money because their parents may not be able to, give them the opportunity to go to driver's ed. So now there's a controversial provision in the bill also expands Indiana's education scholarship account program for students who have disabilities. The new provision expands the program to those students' siblings. So not a student with disabilities, but a student's sibling of someone with disabilities. Think about that. All right. Democratic lawmakers say the ESA expansion could be problematic because no changes were made to the ESA funding levels. They worry the expanded program could reduce the support available to students who need them. Again, not a budget year. So we're going to allow, I'm going to say, I don't like the word normal, but students who are not, don't have any disabilities to receive money that students with disabilities might not be able to have access to because it's already all gone. Kind of like the FSSA and, attendant care, family attendant care. They run out of money. What are the kids with disabilities supposed to do? And I'm not understanding why. It's okay. That's all right. Maybe if they fund it, I won't have a problem with it. Finally, the bill requires lawmakers to create a new fund during next year's budget session to pay for post-secondary training for students graduate high school after students graduate high school. Lawmakers say the new fund will promote the continuation of work-based education and benefit students who do not attend college. Again, not bad, but why didn't they set up a fund to give money to the students, the siblings of disabled students? That doesn't make any sense. Again, this is the continuing work to defund public education one bill at a time. House Bill 1002, authored by Representative Chris Jeter, was amended in the wee hours of session on the final day to make changes to the anti-Semitism definition. The amended bill uses the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance definition of anti-Semitism, but leaves out IHRA's examples of anti-Semitism. The Indian Muslim Advocacy Network took issue with the examples, but celebrated the amended bill in a statement after it passed. The reservations surrounding these examples stem from a majority of the examples defining certain criticisms of Israel as anti-Semitic, which could have been used to stifle free speech in schools and on college campuses, the network wrote. Lawmakers approved. Okay, so I had a problem. This bill I had a problem with only because it only defined anti-Semitism, but it didn't define Islamophobia. I had a problem with that, but okay, fine. Lawmakers approved Senate Bill 282, which aims to cut down on school truancy or unexcused absences. It requires schools to intervene early and hold parents accountable if elementary school students miss 5 days without an excuse. The bill does not address middle and high school students or students who have lots of excused absences, known as chronic absenteeism. Some House Democrats were critical of the provisions in the bill that require schools to report students who miss 10 days of a school without an excuse to the prosecutors. But it passed the Senate unanimously, and just 6 House members voted against it. I worry, why are we bringing law enforcement into this? Because when you contact prosecutors, I mean, maybe you need to contact social workers instead of the prosecutors. Right? Because when you contact prosecutors, you want somebody to file some charges. But if you go to the social workers, then maybe they can find out what kind of intervention needs to be done. But hey, I'm not an elected Republican. I will never be an elected Republican because I'll never be a Republican. I can't think like they think. It's hard. House Bill 1137, authored by Representative Kendall Cupp, requires public schools to release students from class to attend religious instruction for up to 2 hours a week. The instruction must be off school property and students must have parental permission to leave. Religious education during the school day is not new in Indiana, but schools are allowed to say no to students leaving under current law. The new bill would change that and force schools to work with organizations that offer faith-based instructions to find the best time to release students. Some Indiana lawmakers said the bill takes local control away from schools to decide what is best for the student. The bill's proponents say it gives parents more control over their children's education. Again, okay, one, taking away local control is a theme for this session. And two, they kill me with parental rights and parental control because parents of trans kids can't get the necessary medical care that they require. I'm sorry. That just does something to me in my insides that we segregate parents and which ones have a say in their children's lives and which ones don't. All right. SB 185, authored by Jeff Ratz, requires schools, districts, and charter schools to create a policy prohibiting cell phones during instructional time. There are some exceptions for students to use cell phones, laptops, and other devices in a classroom setting, teacher permission for educational purpose as part of their individualized education plan, and in the event of emergency like health reasons. But they didn't say this, or active shooter drills or active shooter situations, because those are going to happen, unfortunately. Similar legislation is found in states like Florida and Kansas and Vermont, where implementation was met with some opposition from students and parents that had districts further restrict use outside of the classroom time. I don't know. That's probably not bad, because cell phones are distracting. I know that I sit in meetings and I watch people get on their phone versus listening to the meeting. So I don't know if that's a bad thing. I think that might be a good thing, because our phones are addictive. They really are. And the apps and all the things. Yeah, I can go with that one. House Bill 1380 defines timeout as a behavior reduction procedure in which access to reinforcement is withdrawn from a certain period of time. It does not include supervised breaks that may be part of some students with disabilities individualized education program. The bill requires schools employees to document each timeout incident and notify parents or guardians when a student is subject to timeout. Indiana schools are currently required to report seclusion and restraint incidents to parents, but timeouts have not previously been regulated in this manner. Hopefully we're not restraining students, but I understand timeouts are necessary because sometimes students have behavioral issues and maybe a timeout is good. I actually don't have a problem with you letting this parent know, because then maybe if they don't have an IEP, maybe they need an IEP. Right. So, again, these are things that we could talk about. And I'm glad that there was a amendment to one of our education bills. They wanted to allow chaplains in school to offer guidance to students. They didn't have any provisions in there for education requirements or certificate requirements. Just a chaplain, just a chaplain who prays. Hopefully they'll have an imam, if they would have an imam or a rabbi, but they just said chaplains. Luckily, that did not go through, because, again, there's supposed to be a separation of church and state, especially if you have not had any training, any early childhood development training or early education training. You just going to be in the school? No, thank you. I'm glad that one was killed. But there's something I want y'all to think about as we are in Women's History Month. This one's pretty sad. Axios Indianapolis reports Indiana lawmakers thought about eliminating the so-called tampon tax this year. They got close and then didn't. Why it matters. Indiana is one of the highest state Indiana has one of the highest state tax rates in the nation on tampons, pads, and other feminine hygiene products, medical necessities for half of Hoosiers. I mean, because many of us can't go without those things, like food. Can't go without food. Women cannot go without these products until they reach menopause. And mind you, by the time you reach menopause, you're an older person and you're probably more established, or more likely to be more established financially. Okay, let's think about this. With a 7% sales tax, Indiana is tied with Mississippi and Tennessee for the highest rate. Although states that allow for local sales tax rates may see higher combined rates in some cities. Catch up quick. Proposals to eliminate the tax in Indiana have been made for several years, but this year's effort got closer to passing than ever before. The House added the provision to a Senate bill that it passed, but the language was removed from the final version on the last day of the legislative session. House Speaker Todd Houston told reporters afterward that because there's a fiscal impact, it will likely be discussed again next year while lawmakers are writing the state budget. The reality check, the General Assembly already has a packed agenda for next session because it's a budget year. It's possible the a Democrat-led proposal falls short again as the Republican supermajority looks to ease other taxes, including the income tax, and fund their own priorities, such as expanding school choice. Plus, lawmakers will have to address ballooning Medicare costs. By the numbers, Indiana's tampon tax brings in less than $5 million annually, according to the state's estimate. You know, I wonder sometimes if men had to buy hygiene products like this, probably would have been damn near free. But ladies, this is why it matters that we show up and we run for office. Because nobody, honestly, you see what is happening, this attack on women. We have no say in our body autonomy. Now they're saying, yeah, we don't care if you need feminine products. We're going to tax those too. And you can't go without those. Or it could be a very, very embarrassing situation. And we know this. We've all gone through it at least once. Guys, I hope you're running for office this year. I hope you're supporting good candidates. And I hope that you are supporting women who are running for office. Because we need somebody that actually understands what it is to be a woman, to actually fight for the issues that matter to women. All right, it's time for my sponsor, Bohm's Unique Boutique. Today's show is brought to you by Bohm's Unique Boutique. Click on the QR code. And for all Turn Left listeners, you can get a 10% discount on your order by using the code DEMOCRAT. Be sure to visit www.bohmsuniqueboutique.com. Democrats, are you looking for an affordable content creation option? If so, look no further than Black Pearl IT Solutions and Black Pearl Studios. Indiana's own Dana Black is providing many of the communication wraparound services any Democratic organization needs. No matter the size of the budget, Indiana's own has you covered. Just scan the QR code or visit www.blackpearl_its.com. All right. Yo, when this lineup came out, I had people saying, I'm excited about your lineup this week. Because honestly, these are dynamic gentlemen. These are amazing guys. I've had the opportunity to spend time with them at different levels for different reasons and adore both of them. But what is most important and what I'm going to talk about tonight, and I hope they know this, these guys are great community leaders. They work hard for their community and they work hard for their families. All right, my first guest running for the State House, I want to say District 24. I got that right? Yep, District 24. My friend, and we had his wife on last year. Y'all give it up for Josh Lowry. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. Ever since you had my wife on, I've been basically known as Alexis's husband. So maybe after tonight, people call me Josh again.
I love it. And a dear friend of mine where we have traveled the state together. We've encouraged people to run for office together. We've done the work together. Y'all give it up for my dear friend, Joe Mackey, who's running for Tippecanoe County Council at large. Joe, welcome back to the show.
Dana, it's always a joy to be with you. I'm happy to be here tonight. I look forward to the conversation we're going to have.
I love
Josh, how are you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
So good to see you.
I love it. All right. So guys, I did a lot of education in my rant. Was there anything that you took note of that you may have been worried about or something that you want to keep your eye on? Joe, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Well, sure. The literacy rates in Indiana are not at all good. It needs to be addressed. The one thing that kind of concerns me is it's being addressed by the State House, but we really haven't seen or heard of a great deal of input from the educators who are trained to make these assessments. I'd like to know what the ISTA thinks of this legislation. I'm certainly going to find out. But I do know we need to address literacy. Cell phones in the classroom are a distraction. We need kids learning, and I mean, kids aren't going to be happy with me, but they need to learn arithmetic. They need to learn reading and writing. and they're not going to get it messing around on their cell phones. So we can't waste the opportunity to educate a child, and we certainly can't provide them a tool that will waste their opportunity. So those two kind of stuck out in my mind as things we should be looking at pretty closely.
Okay, I
Josh?
like those. I like those. Josh, what say you?
I actually wrote down 3 different rants I wanted to go on. So you were talking about that. So I guess I got to pick. Look, the biggest thing for me is when I listen to the education bills, when I listen to the bills about crime reduction, substance abuse, mental health, anything that comes out of the state house, it's always about dealing with the symptom. It's always about dealing with the problem after it's happened. Once somebody's gotten to 3rd grade and can't read, we waited too late. Where's the talk of expanding early education, extending, on my way pre-K, make it universal? We have money for voucher systems, but we don't have money for pre-K, apparently. Just everything out of the state house. They take this hands-off approach, stuff not shockingly goes wrong, and then they have to deal with it. And they go, oh, why is something going wrong? Let's attack the symptom, instead of ever putting any resources towards dealing with what causes it in the first place. I mean, it's just like, I think everybody's probably heard this stat. For every dollar you put towards prevention in healthcare, it saves like $6 down the road.
Yep.
And that applies to education, that applies to healthcare, that applies to mental health, that applies to basically anything. You take care of something before the problem happens, not after. Now you waited too late. But our state house is always reactive. They're never getting ahead of actual problems. Now they're creating fake problems, getting ahead of those, but the real ones, they're never dealing with until it's too late.
Yeah, like the one about there was one bill, the same bill about the tenureship, where, conservative students on the college campus were feeling, a certain percentage of conservative students were feeling ostracized, but there was a higher percentage of Black and brown people. He didn't want to address that. He just wanted to address how conservatives are feeling some kind of way, probably because they have sucky policies. But hey, All right, Josh. Well, first of all, guys, listen, this is a fundraiser. Yes, Turn Left is a great show, and it's a wonderful podcast because we bring on all the best Democrats, but it's also a fundraiser. So guys, click on the donate link and donate to these candidates, because every dollar helps. $5, $10, does not matter. Donate, and it's one link, and the monies that you donate will be split between both of my candidates that are on the show tonight. And we will do this every week because I want to help, and I need you to help me help them. All right, Josh, since it's your first time on the show, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
All right. So hello, everyone. I'm Josh. I'm an attorney, a foster parent, and a lifelong Hoosier. I was born and raised in Martinsville. I went to IU Bloomington's, where I met my wonderful wife, Alexis. After undergrad, I did what all sane people do, and I tried to become a professional wrestler. I went to the WWE's training school, the same place where John Cena went. I didn't make it because I'm a terrible actor, actually. I couldn't cut the promos. So we ended up moving to Westfield. I became an attorney. I've done constitutional law, but for us, everything revolves around being foster parents. We were not able to have kids on our own. So we'd originally got into foster to adopt so that we would be able to have kids of our own. I'll be honest, right? It was kind of more of a selfish thing, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. But we got addicted to helping kids. And since then, we've had 12 different kids. And we've been lucky enough to adopt 5 of them. And it's just been, it's my favorite thing. If you gave me truth serum, said describe yourself, foster dad is going to be the first thing that pops into my head. And it's a lot of fun. I love it.
So what in the course of your was it your constitutional law education that said, oh wait, I want to go on service? Because going to law school don't make people want to be servants, right? What made you want to be a servant?
It's actually 2 things. So at the very base of it, my mom for the last 30 years has been an aide to teachers teaching special education classes. And that's kind of what I grew up. And that's how I actually saw, my mom kind of, I don't know if judge is the correct term, but that's what she valued. She wasn't ever talking about how much money someone had. It was more about how much you helped people. So I think that was kind of my mindset. But what actually made me get involved was the Dobbs decision. Our two oldest daughters, we adopted them from Pennsylvania. And they were here. We were going through the adoption process. And I think we had just adopted them. And then the Dobbs decision leaked. And I realized we had brought them from a state, Pennsylvania, where they had more rights than the state they're brought to in Indiana. And the state you live in shouldn't determine the number of rights that you have.
Right.
And every parent out there knows, or even someone that's not a parent, I think anybody can understand, this became a thing. It wasn't just a policy thing. Like when people were like, oh, well, we just disagree on policy. No. You were coming from my kids' rights. And where the constitutional law comes in is it doesn't stop at abortion, right? These privacy rights are like a big Jenga block. You pull one out, they all topple. And now we've seen, they're going after IVF. They're going after birth control. Baby. You've had a couple of justices openly say they want to overturn the gay marriage.
Obergefell.
And I just couldn't stand by and do nothing about it. And so it went from, I had helped out some campaigns before to, all right, I'm gonna do this myself. And that is why, I know every candidate goes through this, but I'm full-time job, the 5 kids, campaigning, barely getting any sleep, but I'm driven every day because I know they're going to keep coming for my kids' rights.
Yeah.
And I want to at least be in that General Assembly and be voting against those things every time they come through.
I love it. And also be a voice in that chamber, to maybe be a voice of reason, right? Because it's more, sometimes it's more than just, voting against. I know that one of the things that like J.D. Ford or Senator J.D. Ford and Senator Fatty Cadora and Senator Shelley Yoder always, and Representative Ed Delaney, they always talk about trying to make a bad bill better. So like sometimes it's, I feel that. I appreciate that. Joe Mackey, tell the people who you are and where you come from.
So I'm Joe Mackey. I'm running for Tippecanoe County Council at Large. I am a lifelong Hoosier and resident of Tippecanoe County. My wife and I both grew up here, several blocks from each other, as a matter of fact, as kids. Been married. We'll be 36 years this July. So, we've been together a long time. We lost 2 of our 3 children to cancer, 2 different cancers. Genetically unrelated to each other, or to Tammy and I, and we lost those children in a span of just 30 months. So we have a small pediatric cancer foundation, and we reach out and help pediatric cancer families around the state. We help them buy medicines, pay out-of-pocket expenses, pay for gas. If you live in Evansville or Fort Wayne and your child has to be treated at Riley, you're in a car quite a bit. So, these are the things that we learned through our experience, and we work hard to be there for these families. So that's kind of what I'm doing today. I'm a retired machinist. I work for a major large engine manufacturer here in Lafayette.
You look too young to be retired, homie.
Well, thank you for that. I'm going to go look at myself in the mirror and see if I can confirm that thought. But we have a lot to talk about in Tippecanoe County. And I know Josh's district and the issues here in Tippecanoe are very closely tied together. The LEAP district, of course, the state wants to take 100 million gallons out of the aquifers here in Tippecanoe County. We're worried because we have watched other states collapse their aquifers and they're drying up. So we have some things to talk about in terms of, I don't know that you can just continue to say, no, you can't have the water. But I do think that we need to talk about being wiser consumers of our limited natural resources. And I'm out there looking at what cities are doing in the way of curtailing consumption of potable water, because it is the most precious and yet limited natural resource. We can't make more of it. So, there's little things we can do, like as a community, don't water your lawn in a rainstorm. That one's a pretty common thing.
What? Wait, huh? People
literally
are watering their lawns when it's raining?
So they have automated sprinkler systems. They kick on at, say, 5 a.m. in the morning. And you wake up. I was actually going to a meeting last spring and came out of the house, and one of my neighbors, their sprinkler system was on in the middle of a downpour. I drove to the meeting, and a couple of businesses along the route also had sprinkler systems on. And this is a waste of water. I've been reading, I read where one city asked people, there was a concerted effort community-wide to turn the water off while they brushed their teeth, and found that they were saving 3 million gallons of water a day simply by these minor practices. So,
same thing for in the shower. Same thing for in the shower. When you're in the shower, turn the water off while you're soaping up, lathering up. You don't need the water on while you're lathering up.
There's things, don't let, I do dishes by hand. We have a dishwasher, but it's just Tammy and I. So again, don't let the rinse water run. Wash your dishes, turn it on, turn it off. Yeah. These are minor things, very minor things that we can do. Water capture. I have a friend of mine, he has rain barrels tied to the downspouts of his house. He captures this water and he uses it to water his elevated gardens.
There you go.
So there's practices that we can do that are really not too cumbersome, but in the long run, quite practical.
I like them. So let me ask you this. So you guys are both, returning candidates, right? One of the things you guys got one up on me. I ran once. I was one and done, but I found some other stuff to do. But there is something important about, even if you don't succeed the first time, you try it again. Oh, yeah. Josh, what was in your mind because you know how hard you got to work. You've actually gone through your election. You went through your wife's election. And oh, by the way, y'all, I got to shout it out. If you've not heard the interview that I did with his wife, Alexis, go to my YouTube page and listen to it. I'm telling you, it was one of the best ones I did last season. But anyway, back to you, Josh, because you're the most important person in the family today on Turn Left. What goes in your mind? Because you know how much work it takes to run for office. What made you come back and do it again?
It was the same thing that made me run. It's my kids' rights. It's Indiana's future, just because I might have wanted some more sleep doesn't change what's happening to the state. Mm-hmm. But in addition to that, when I was campaigning, so for anybody that hasn't heard, I ran for State Senate District 21 in 2022. I got caucused in after the Dobbs decision. I went to Dana Colbert, our Hamilton County chair. I got caucused in because nobody was running against Jim Buck. But what I found when I was going from door to door was not like I wasn't getting a bunch of doors slammed in my face. I wasn't getting a bunch of rejection. Most of the people agreed with what I was saying. They just still weren't voting for us. There's something being lost from the one-on-one conversation from the door to the ballot box. And that's why, to me, this isn't just some sort of hopeless, there's no chance. I truly believe most of the people in my district are with us. The ballot and the votes may have not reflected that, but that's something I think we can change. That's something I think that we can fix. Maybe it's the messaging. Maybe it's, I'll tell you what a lot of it is. I think a lot of people just think their vote doesn't count. And they think there's not enough Democrats. And I'll tell you exactly why I think it is that. Who's your hospitality? We're supposed to be nice at all times. Nobody's confrontational. I could tell you as an attorney, I have to be confrontational. That was the hardest part to learn at first. And so whenever you had like that crazy family member saying some just crazy, angry, MAGA, QAnon stuff or whatever, the other people are like, Well, it'd be rude to disagree with them, so they don't say anything. But the problem's not just them. It's the four other people in the room. Oh, they didn't say anything. So they must also be crazy out there QAnon people, right? And so because of that, that loud MAGA minority has created this, people believe that they're way bigger than they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of people end up staying home. But I know for a fact there are enough in Westville because my wife only lost by 23 votes.
23
last year. Anita Joshi, she's the Carmel City councilor. Her district is in my district. She won.
Okay.
There are enough votes in House District 24. I just need people to believe that there are enough and to act like it.
I love that. And I want to help you with that. Do you have a primary opponent?
I don't.
Okay.
Nope.
Look, let's talk about how Indiana's Own can help you hype up those people, man. Because I feel you. Look, you motivated me. You motivated me to get to work. Joe Mackey, you ran for Congress. Whew.
Congress, right?
That's no easy feat. What made and you know what? I gotta tip my hat because some people run for Congress or federal office. They think they too good to come back down to the local level. You know, you came
service to service, Dana. I'll tell you. You know, Abraham Lincoln ran for office 6 times before he was elected once. And that's just determination, desire to serve, a commitment to your beliefs. And I think that I feel that way. I'm sure Josh does. I'm concerned because Indiana has the lowest voter turnout in the country. We're reducing the number of polls, so we're making it more difficult for first-time voters to vote. You know, they're talking about eliminating mail-in ballots, and so you know the powers that be in Indianapolis are working very hard to suppress voters.
Well,
now,
make sure we are clear. The General Assembly, because Indianapolis, we're trying to get everybody to vote.
Well, yeah, the General Assembly. For those of us who don't live in Indianapolis, the General Assembly, we say Indianapolis, everyone knows. So my apologies to your viewers. And Josh is right. I was out canvassing with a young Democrat here in Tippecanoe County who won his race. And we knocked on the door, and this lady answered, a very nice lady. And she and her husband had just moved here from New York. And they'd been here about a year. They were just like ready, oh, we can vote now. And we knocked on their door, and the lady said, you know, we're glad you're here. We feel like an island in a sea of red. And the young guy I was with looked at her and goes, oh, no, ma'am, there's 60 Democrats living within 2 blocks of you.
Wow.
And this is part of it. You know, we're up against straight ballot voting, and that's a problem. I believe, you know, I listened to what you said about feminine products, and I got to believe that there are conservative women out there who believe in bodily autonomy and government overreach, and you know they have got to come across and support candidates who are going to protect them and their daughters, their sisters, their mothers, their aunts, their cousins, you know, and it's about allies as well. We can't just put the burden on a woman and say, well, go out there and change it. Those of us who think that this is a valuable, a real issue need to stand up and be counted with women. And, you know, I'm proud to be there. I have a twin sister. I'm a twin.
Oh.
I've been married for 3.5 decades. And I understand what women are up against. You know, I was raised by a single mother with a 6th grade education.
Wow.
And, you know, I know what she was up against. You know, and we're talking the 60s and the 70s when women were just cattle in the workplace. They're so disrespected. And we've come a long way, but we haven't come near long enough. You know, until women are getting equal pay and equal say, until we understand that their healthcare products are a matter of life and death.
Yeah.
And that's a fact.
Yeah.
If you cannot get the feminine product, you are subject to infections, among other things. And we all know 80% of the bankruptcies filed in federal courts are healthcare related. This is a healthcare issue. I don't like to see the aggressiveness of a Republican supermajority and their disrespect for women. I don't like the idea that they're passing unfunded mandates, which is what the educational bills you mentioned are.
Mm-hmm.
They're not funding this, they're mandating it. They'll tell you they don't like unfunded mandates, and yet they pass a series of pieces of legislation, and none of it's funded.
Yeah, yeah. And so, one of the things that is coming up soon, and I love this conversation because I had a conversation with someone just today at lunch about how do we increase voter turnout.
Right.
I think one of the things has to be, and you guys check me if you think I'm wrong, but I think one of the things where we mess up is that we wait until it's the election to talk to people about issues that matter to the communities. I mean, I love, GOTV. Who doesn't love GOTV? But I think it's March 14th. What conversations are we having as non-candidates, right? Not because you guys are obviously candidates trying to earn votes is very different. But what kind of conversations are we having in communities about how these bills are impacting people? And when I say community, your community could be anywhere. It could be your online group. It could be at your lunch counter. It could be wherever. Because I think one of the things that we've been afraid to discuss is politics in public. Like, remember they say you don't discuss money, religion, and politics. But if we discuss policy, maybe we can change the conversation, because a lot of people and even the person that I was talking to today, they often want to blame Barack Obama for something that didn't happen. And it was like, wait a minute, it had to go through Congress first. He can't just flip a switch and make it happen. There's a process. So I think one of the things, and Josh, I would love to talk about how we create, a space where we're educating people on the processes of our government and how these policies are impacting them directly, because they don't know. They hear the sound bites, they see the commercials, especially for our governors. I mean, my God. And that's what they go with without understanding, hey, this guy is going to vote against unions. And aren't you a union person? He's gonna vote against your kid being able to get good quality public education in rural Indiana because he's sending all the money to charter schools that are not in rural Indiana, right? I don't know. I love this conversation. Speaking of unions, and speaking of the gubernatorial race, next week I think they're having the gubernatorial debate. And every time I listen to the GOP argue amongst themselves, one of the things they start to disparage is the ability to collective bargain and what it means for workers to be unionized. We saw last year how unions actually were able to improve the quality of life for union folks and non-union folks. Can you talk to me about how you feel, and Joe, I'm going to start with you, when it comes to collective bargaining and protecting workers' rights to unionize?
Well, first off, I had a friend of mine who's an economist, and he made this wonderful statement that just stuck with me. And he said, unions are a natural occurring organism in the economic ecosphere.
Okay.
And if you look back throughout history, and I'm going back to the ancient pyramids, we had unions. We had guilds, the guilds in the Middle Ages. They have always been here, and it is irrational to want to eliminate them because unions make things better. You said it. And that's just a hard and cold truth to it. We have union kids who are going into apprenticeship programs. They're getting paid. They're not going into debt. They're learning a trade that can be applied across the country. They provide a very valuable earning opportunity and a lifelong work. And, their benefits are good. Their wages are good. The work opportunities are plentiful right now. We haven't always seen that. When I was getting out of high school, the economy, it was 79. The economy wasn't that great.
Baby.
So we need these unions. They need to exist because without them, working people are just going to be taken advantage of time and time again. And there is no depth to how low corporate America would go. I actually had a corporate executive tell me, Joe, if I could pay people $5 an hour with no benefits, I would.
Oh my gosh, Josh!
And that captures the sentiment that we're up against.
Yeah, Josh,
I would like to say though very quickly, if I might, Dana. Sure. You talk about how do we reach people? How do we talk to people? A couple of months ago, I was invited down to Independence, Indiana, to meet with some libertarians. They wanted to meet a Democrat and have a conversation. And a lady they know who's a Democrat reached out to me, and I went down. And, we spent nearly 2 hours over breakfast just talking. And it started off with the usual barbs, you liberal Democrats, this, that, and the other. And I said, we can throw arrows at each other for the next 2 hours, or we can talk about what happens when you turn your faucet on and there's no water.
Mm-hmm.
That gets all of us. Well, that now brings the conversation down to a local level.
Yeah.
They understand rural people, the libertarians, they understand the value of an education. And they understand that the rural schools their children are going to are getting shortchanged by the way the state house has created this.
But they keep voting for the clowns that are pushing this, though.
Exactly. And I'll tell you why I think I was invited down is they're finally looking for an alternative. And so when we speak to the local issues, rural healthcare, rural Hoosiers know their women and children are dying in the highest numbers.
Yeah.
Third highest in maternal mortality rate, seventh highest in infant mortality rate. A majority of these children are dying in rural areas.
Yeah.
This is a problem, and they recognize it.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Josh, what say you when it comes to union organizing?
So,
and you're an attorney, so you're the right kind of guy.
Here's the thing. Any actual factual investigation, nobody would have a reason to argue against unions. Nobody would have a reason to argue against pretty much any economic policy that goes from the bottom up. And nobody would have any evidence to support arguing trickle down. That's not why it's done, right? The reason it's done, and I feel like I can say this, we're among friends.
We're amongst friends.
We're amongst friends.
Homies.
There are billionaires out there that just want to maximize profit. Mm-hmm. And what they're going to do is push these economic policies that benefit them and not the rest of us, mm-hmm. so they can have more profits. Now, the way they do it is to get people in that'll support them. They'll give money to anyone as long as they support their thing. Mm-hmm. They then realize, hey, these culture wars, there's a very small group of people that are really angry about it. But we can get those people to turn up to vote. So we're going to push them. We're going to put so much money towards this so that there's just this inflamed group of people that are going to go out and vote because they can't stand some social issue. They'll put in some people in office that say they're going to go change things, and those people are going to get in there and they're going to do the same trickle down stuff that hasn't worked for 50 years.
Yeah.
This is as it almost sounds like evil plot because it kind of is. Yeah. The reason kids in Indiana can't get gender affirming care is because the Kochs wanted tax cuts. Mm. This all goes around like that. And it infuriates me that because someone, a billionaire too, right? Like, right. Oh, 10's not enough, I need 11. They're going to cause society to basically break apart. They don't care. I always think about like Tucker Carlson. He doesn't believe any of this stuff. He gets rich off of it. He doesn't care if some kid gets beat up in the street because of the passions he inflamed.
Yeah.
Because he made it. And that is, look, there are some benefits to a free market system, mm-hmm. but there are also a lot of grifters that mm-hmm. find a way to get rich, and they don't care if they do it at the expense of our kids, of our women, of our anybody.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
And until we're willing to take that head on, it's going to keep happening.
No doubt. All right, guys. Indiana's own Dana Black. I am talking to Josh Lowry, candidate for Indiana State House District 24, and Joe Mackey, my dear, dear friend Joe Mackey from Tippecanoe County, running for County Council at Large. Turn Left is all about where you listen to the candidates. All right, guys, let's get into the nitty-gritty of the 2024 election cycle, and let's talk about what the main issues and why you are running for the seats that you're running for. I understand what motivated you to get involved with politics, but you're out there knocking doors and you're talking to people. Joe, talk about the 3 issues or 2 to 3 issues that are top of mind for Tippecanoe County residents this election cycle?
So for me, firstly, water, affordable housing next, education after that. We have to do something about our consumption. Indianapolis is due to run out of water here in the next 5 years, I believe.
What?
Yeah, they're going to have to stop growing. They've maximized their amount of water. The state has decided, or the IEDC, that they're going to turn Boone County into some industrial mega complex, and Boone County doesn't have the natural resources to support it. So they're going to take it from Lafayette. We are watching the State House just passed legislation that provided large developers a huge tax break. $390 million is what Tippecanoe and West Lafayette are estimated to lose in tax revenue based on a formula they've created for multi-purpose buildings. The multi-purpose buildings are ground floor level shops and stores. The next 4 levels are apartments.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting a huge tax break, over 50%. Well, I think, it's incumbent on governments. And by the way, this is going to affect cities. Mm-hmm. This is targeted at cities. And who are the elected officials in cities? Democrats. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they're targeting Democratic cities with this. It's going to hurt everybody. I'm concerned that the state can blindly give the IEDC, the Economic Development Commission, billions of dollars with no oversight.
No oversight. That makes sense.
They operate above the state. They don't need to talk to the state about the projects they create. Mm-hmm. They show up in communities and they say, here's what we're going to do. And they steamroll. Yep. And I really think they've overstepped their bounds in Tippecanoe County, because this is the first time in decades that you have seen residents, and I'm not talking parties, residents are all united in this. And I think they're demanding a government that is open and honest, transparent, which is something, I have been arguing for a long time. The challenge is, will voters be courageous enough to replace sitting politicians who have been there a very long time,
baby,
with new people? Give us a chance.
I love it.
And I think that's how we're going to reach out to people is, you can't keep voting the same way and expect change.
Right.
You've got to make
ain't that
happen,
insanity?
and that's going to happen at the polls.
Ain't that what the definition of insanity?
Exactly. And so, we're going to get Democrats to the polls. We need to improve our turnout. And I'll tell you, Tippecanoe County had a Democratic sweep in the municipal elections in 22. We won every contested race. We dominate both city councils, both mayoral offices. But we did it on a gross turnout of 11.3% of eligible voters. And that's not good. That's not good for democracy. I mean, we can say we won these races, but when it's all being decided by 11.3% of the eligible voters,
that's not real representation.
Indiana's got a problem.
One of the things that I've heard from pretty much, especially last year when I was interviewing more municipal candidates, every municipal candidate talked about affordable housing. But one thing that was not addressed in this State House session was affordable housing. Or, I'm sorry, I take that back. They were going to take away Indianapolis's opportunity district. They were gonna take that away, right? And again, over and over again, we keep mentioning and talking about how the State House continues to infringe on local control. Josh, what are the 3 things that got you running this? I know why you wanted to get in and make changes, but what's going on in in your District 24 for this 2024?
Yeah. So look, here in House District 24, we have most of Westville, a good chunk of Carmel, good chunk of Boone County, and then all of Sheridan. And the thing that I hear the most is just that, the rights, the autonomy. A woman being right to choose what to do with her body, a parent being able to choose what books their kids should read, a person being able to choose who they want to marry, that kind of stuff.
Really?
People don't understand why this is happening, because a lot of people moved here and they're like, hey, this is a pretty cool place to live. And then all of a sudden the politicians are like, hey, the world's falling apart. We have to tear it down. And it doesn't add up.
Uh-huh.
That's one. Two, education, education, and education. A lot of people move to this district for the schools. Carmel, Sheridan, Westfield, Zionsville. These are some of the best schools in the nation. Sheridan has won so many national awards. Westfield just had a National Teacher of the Year. And they move here and they want the schools. And then the supermajority is trying to defund them. Mm-hmm. And make no mistake about it, a voucher system will defund our public schools. Mm-hmm. And we here want to support our teachers. And I hear that every door. You know what? I have to, real quick side note. Whenever I'm out canvassing and knocking doors, every time someone says to me that their kids are being indoctrinated or there's something crazy happening in the school, they don't have kids in that school. Just a coincidence, I guess.
Well, and wait a minute. You talked about teachers. Hamilton County just had a teacher fair, because even in Hamilton County, one of the school districts with the greatest school systems have a teacher shortage, and it has nothing to do with the school systems. It's the state that the school system is in, because they're not asking the right question. Why don't people want to live in Indiana? Bro, you just mentioned all those things about how great the school systems are in your district, but people don't want to move here. They had to have a school. Okay, I'm sorry. And they pay better. Like if Hamilton County, y'all, is having a shortage of teachers with the pay that they pay, it's something bigger than Hamilton County. Okay, go back to your reasons. Sorry, I had to jump that in there.
No, you're fine. And the third thing goes right into that. It's costs, right? And specifically childcare and housing are the ones that I hear the most about. Childcare is a huge one, because now you're making someone choose between their career and their kid, essentially. And if someone, Elizabeth Warren always talked about the two income trap. You send your kid to daycare, maybe you have multiple kids, and you look at it financially and you say, well, we break even, so what's the point? I'll just stay home with them. The problem is, and it's usually the woman that's stuck with that. I don't want to say stuck with that. Being with your kids is great. My kids have never annoyed me.
Trust me, if I had a wife and I had kids and I had to stay home, I'd be the one stuck. Trust, no one believe, because it would drive me crazy. I couldn't do it.
And the thing about it is so let's say you have to spend 5 years at home with your kid, and that balances out financially, but you just lost 5 years on furthering your career.
Yeah.
And so now you've been hurt financially, your career, and then that's why. Can I go on another rant real quick, Dana?
Go. As
a man, one of the things I hate hearing the most, and this would go for any type of relationship, man and woman, woman, man, I don't care, is when there is a couple and one of them succeeds in their career while the other one's taking care of the kids. And then they get divorced and the person tries to say, well, I'm the one that earned this money. No. Bro. Like, if you couldn't have done all that work if you didn't have that support.
Exactly.
And I hear that and it just makes my skin crawl. I can't stand that. Like, you're a team or you're not.
Exactly.
You don't get to claim it when you want it and not. Anyway, I'm sorry. I told you I had a rant. I wanted to start going on.
Real talk, because there's an investment being made that you are allowed to pursue your dreams, your career dreams, without worry that your home and your children are going to be taken care of. I mean, I still have to come home and take care of my house after I done worked all day. And that's because I live by myself. I know single parents, right? They got to go out and work all day and still come home and take care of their kids. So when you get the luxury of just focusing on your career while somebody else is maintaining your food, making sure you got a good meal, making sure your kids are fed, making sure your laundry's done. Come on, that's real talk. And I appreciate you even saying it, Josh. I back you up 100.
Well, thank you. That's one that unfortunately, as a man, I hear too often from my kind. And so we need to put a sock in it, guys. Oh.
I love it. More importantly, you guys, we need, as women, and I'm just gonna say it like this, and I know a lot of people will be upset with me when I say the truth. You know how, Josh, you said, sometimes family members don't want to say nothing, or you in a group because they don't want to deal with the loud MAGA. That wouldn't happen in my house. I learned how to argue early, and it was at the spades table. We play cards. If you can't mess talk, then you gonna lose. But that being said, one of the things I wanted to hit on again was we have got to be vigilant in how we address these things. You guys are talking about, like, Joe, you went to the libertarians. They invited you. And my people are going to hate it when I say this. There are times when we as Democrats have to understand that we do need cis, white, straight men in certain spaces.
Right.
It just is. I know y'all can't say that. The African American cross-dressing masculine of center lesbian said it, because I know if I go to White County, I could deliver the same message, but it's not going to be received the same way. So in a state that has a total 9% African American population, I sometimes need my white cisgender male allies and accomplices to go in spaces and articulate the same things I'm articulating. It's not a bad thing. And I say that because, it's Women's History Month, and we're talking about we always got to make space and blah, 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 and we do need more. Yes, we always need more women and minorities to run. But I also need us to be strategic about that.
You look at any well-built organization, there are multiple parts, multiple purposes, different functions working together to create something meaningful. And that's what we are. We're all part of a big machine, if you will, as a metaphor. We're all working towards the same goals. You don't see a lot of difference in opinion. Mm-hmm. So, hey, if I'm the individual that goes down to Independence, Indiana, to have breakfast with libertarians, I'm going.
Yeah.
But I was invited. And I was invited.
If I wasn't invited, because I'm just special like that. I'm just going to show up and throw a party.
It took, I think, a degree of courage for them to reach out and say, we want to talk to somebody who's a Democrat. I wasn't at all what they were expecting to come through the door.
Joe, you are never what anyone expects.
Yeah, I know. I catch a lot of people off guard that way. I mean, look at me. Throw a suit on me, I look like a soprano. I mean, to be honest. But, I just understand that, we allow the national conversation to permeate our day-to-day conversations, and we neglect those issues that surround all of us.
Yeah.
And when we talk about those issues that surround all of us, you find far less disagreement, and everybody can contribute something. Nobody's 100% right.
Exactly.
So we can, it's about having the conversations. I spoke with, some time ago, a militia organization. And it was by a happenstance. It was just, I was with Sheila Klinker. I met these guys on the street. They knew Sheila. Everyone does. But I was talking to them, and we had this conversation. And I had this young guy look at me and go, you're the first Democrat we've ever talked to who isn't screaming at us in 10 minutes in the first 10.
Well, and, see, then they better not talk to me, because I will scream at you, because I'm just that girl. I'm loud like that.
I think when we can have rational conversations,
absolutely,
and give reason for people to want to think about things, it's always better. No relationship succeeds when both people are screaming.
But see, I brought that up because, here it is, Women's History Month. We're on the tail of Black History Month. And trust me, I often get somebody tapping me on my shoulder, asking me why I have who I have on. And that's because they don't understand the big picture, right? Not always the big picture. Turn left listeners, this is a prime example of a time where we have accomplices and allies in the movement that we need to support.
Right.
Here are two amazing Democrats, and they just so happen to be guys, right? You know, they just so happen to be white males. They just so happen to be married to women. They just so happen to be, but they're great Democrats who care about society as a whole. They care about our children's future. They care about civil rights for everybody and access to the ballot box for everybody. We need to support these candidates because they are going to be better for us than the alternative. All right, guys, you know what? It's actually after 7 o'clock because that's what happens with Turn Left. Joe, do you have, tell the people where they can find you.
JoeForCouncil.com. It's the website. I'm out there. I've got Act Blue going. We are excited about this campaign. We're working hard already. I have yard signs going out. We're lining up canvassers already. I think April's going to be a good month. We're looking forward to the general election. We have 5 candidates running on the Democratic ticket.
Oh, that's right, because you're the 4th district chair too, aren't you?
I am the 4th district chair. I am the vice chair here in Tippecanoe County. I am a candidate for Tippecanoe County Council at Large. I am a volunteer and operative with our Pediatric Cancer Foundation. So I wear a lot of hats.
But I just love that you toasted up, the other candidates in your county and in your district. I'm tipping my hat to you on that one.
These guys aren't my opponents; they're friends. I know them, and I want them to do well. I would like to come out of the primary. I'd like to win the race, obviously, but I don't see that my victory should come necessarily at the expense of some of these younger Democrats who are literally cutting their teeth for the first time.
I love it. And do you have any events coming up?
So actually, Tippecanoe County is hosting a candidate meet and greet later this month. I just got a notice. We're going to do speed something or other. It's kind of like speed dating. Mm-hmm. So I'll stand at a table, all the candidates, and people will come along and they'll ask a question. You have 2 minutes to answer it. Then they move on. I'm really looking forward to that. So those are the county is doing that. We haven't put together any specific events as yet. We're just kind of waiting for spring to start. We are out. I don't need to canvass to talk to a lot of people. I have 5,000 contacts here on my contact list in Tippecanoe County. So we're sending out emails and we're talking to folks wherever we can find them. And I'm getting very positive feedback on my candidacy. A lot of people are happy. I have to tell you, a few Democrats actually put out Joe Mackey for Congress signs in their yard.
Wow, that's pretty dope. That's pretty dope.
One of us had to run out and put a Joe Mackey for county council.
There you go. So, Josh, tell the people where they can find you.
So my website is Lowry for Indiana. It's Lowry and the word for spelled out. If you see somebody with Lowry and an E in there, they're a poser. There's a civil war going on. Eventually we'll have to straighten out whether it's supposed to be an E in Lowry or not.
Got it.
But look, Lowry for Indiana, at Lowry for Indiana is my handle on all social media. Follow me on social media. I'm out there talking quite a bit. Look, I'm proud that I'm a Democrat. I'm going to let people know it. I'm not going to run as a Republican light because I'm not. I'm not talking about being a foster parent and all that stuff because I'm trying to convince someone I'm a good person, even though I'm a Democrat. Because I'm a good person who fosters, I support these Democratic policies.
Come on, say it.
Time and time again, the more we invest in people, the better it turns out. And I believe in Hoosiers. If we invest in them, they will succeed. And that's why I'm not going to back down for what I stand for. So please check me out online. And also to everyone out there, this is not the year to mess around. If we pick up 4 seats in the House, we break the Republican supermajority. That's bigger than breaking the supermajority in itself. That's going to get national attention on the state, national resources. It's going to give people belief and enthusiasm that we can turn the whole state around. And it starts with these 4 seats that we have to pick up this year.
I love it. And do you have any events coming up?
Yes, I'll be putting everything on. We have a lot going on. I don't know if there's any specific public event, but the primary, to everyone out there. I don't care if your primary is uncontested. Go vote.
Yes.
It matters. It's one of the things when I talk about people having a belief that there's not enough of us, the primary is one of the things they look at. And when they see, oh, there wasn't even a contested thing, and hundreds still came and voted for this guy, that helps build the belief.
Absolutely. Also, guys, consider donating, because every dollar, every contributor to these campaigns show that there's also support. Y'all saw what happened to Jefferson Shreve last year. He spent all that money and came up double digits short. Mm-hmm. Thought he could somehow or another buy Indianapolis. We wasn't buying his BS. We wasn't having none of that. And then, guys, I got to tell you, I really did appreciate this conversation. It went by way too fast. But I knew this was going to be a good show because you guys are awesome Democrats who care about people. And I'm hoping that people fall in love with you. I hope you get some donations. I hope you get all the volunteers you need, because it's going to take all of us to help you win. Time, talent, and treasure. All right, everybody, time, give him if you have time and you don't have treasure, give him your time. If you don't have treasure, give him your talent. And if you got treasure, give it all. You know you can do that. All right. Listen, I'm closing out today because, last Tuesday was more primaries happened. We had Super Tuesday the week before, and our candidates for president are locked in, right? They're locked in. We knew they were going to be locked in because, we knew that. It just is. The maggots are showing up. They just are. But here's the deal. And I'm going to piggyback off of Josh, and y'all going to be so sick of me saying this all year long until everybody gets out and votes. I know y'all think Biden is old, but so is Trump. I know you worried that he has made some mistakes when it comes to Gaza and, pulling out of Afghanistan. Sure, he's made some mistakes. But that clown over there, the orange clown, he tried to overthrow our government. And I said it just like that on purpose.
All right.
He actually tried to overthrow our government and have his own vice president killed.
If I might, people don't realize that two of Mike Pence's children were born via IVF.
You know what? Listen, we already know that Mike Pence is for show. He ain't for real. Right now, let me go back to my closing rant. So I know y'all are thinking that, lesser of two evils. I'm sorry. There is no lesser of two evils. There are many of you people right now who have to use insulin and who are on Medicare. It has now been capped at $35. There are many of you who are seeing road and infrastructure improvements in your communities right now because the Biden administration did what it had to do to make sure that we pass an infrastructure bill. There are jobs that are coming back to all 50 states because of the CHIPS and Science Act. There are real tangible wins. The other guy, because you got to draw a contrast, right? The other guy downplayed the COVID, which killed over 1 million Americans, and told them to inject bleach into their bodies. The other guy said that, Putin, he believed Putin over our own intelligence advisors. The other guy took classified documents and then showed them off to people because the Australian Prime Minister told us about it and it was recorded. Y'all cannot tell me this is the lesser of two evils. No, some of you don't care about governing when you lost. You only cared about governing. Well, you never really were governing. Let's just be real. This guy is going to destroy our nation, and he is doing it one elected Republican at a time. I know that you have seen Senator Braun's commercials. He leads with, "I was endorsed by the clown." It doesn't say that in the commercial, but y'all know what I mean. So if you are endorsed by the person who wants to overthrow our government and do away with the Constitution, because that's what he said he wanted to do, and said that he wanted to be a dictator on day one, is Senator Braun the right person to lead The state of Indiana. Now, Doden don't sound too all that great to me either, because he sounded like some old Law and Order stuff. And every time they hear Law and Order, all I see is black and brown people getting locked up over a dime bag of weed. That's what I hear. I'm triggered.
Right.
But I need y'all to understand. Josh said it. Joa said it. More important than anything else, the least you can do is show up at the polls. But I am telling you, you need to do more. Time, talent, or treasure. Because our future depends on, I'm 53. I'm good. You know, the worst thing that can happen is that they take away Social Security, which they're trying to do anyway. They really are trying to take away Social Security that I done paid into since 1986. I'm going to need them to not do that. 1986, I've been paying into it. But guys, I need y'all to get fired up about what this election cycle is all about. And it's at every level of government. Enough with unintelligent thinkers running our government. Enough with showboaters. Enough with pedophiles and human traffickers. Yep, I said it. Enough with people who think their religion is the only religion that matters. Enough with people who want to legislate away our trans community. Enough with telling us as women we cannot make medical decisions about our bodies. Enough. Let's elect people who are governed for all people. Not just they homies. Not just so they can collect their dollars. Not so they can have control and run dominion. And when it comes to Indiana, I need everyone to understand Indianapolis funds a third of the counties in this state. Indianapolis funds about a third of the counties in the state because they don't generate enough tax revenue to fund their own bills. But Indianapolis does. And they want control over Indianapolis. But every time they try, the people in Indianapolis will be like, we don't want that nonsense in here. And we voted out. Now let's show up. We are 600,000 registered voters strong in Indianapolis. That if we all show up and not 12% like we did last year, right? If we can show up at 60%, I'm not even asking everybody, 60%. We could be 2008 all over again.
Right.
So y'all get your hats on, get ready, because 2024 is on and popping. Joe Mackey running for Tippecanoe County Council at Large, and Josh Lowry running for Indiana House District 24. Thank y'all so much for joining us tonight. Guys, get ready, buckle up, it's on. And I will holler at y'all next week. Peace.
Turn Left is the property of Black Pearl IT Solutions. Executive producer, Indiana's own Dana Black. Music by www.bensound.com.